British government approved a multi-million-dollar takeover of the country's iconic postal service Royal Mail on Monday. EP Group, owned by Czech billionaire Daniel Kretinsky, has bid $4.5 billion for International Distribution Services, or IDS, which is Royal Mail's parent. IDS agreed to a takeover for EP Group in May, but the deal has been under review by Britain since August. The government said it closely looked at it due to the national importance of the service. Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds said EP Group had committed to protect Royal Mail's postal network. He also said he'd secured a so-called golden share. That ensures its headquarters stay in Britain and the firm continues to pay UK taxes. He further said the deal provided a secure future to thousands of workers and customers and ensures a financially stable Royal Mail. EP also announced it had reached agreements in principle with Royal Mail's unions. Kretinsky pledged to be a long-term and committed investor. He said EP Group was on a mission to make Royal Mail a successful modern postal operator. Royal Mail was privatised in 2013 in a massive state sell-off. EP said it expects the deal to complete in the first quarter of next year.
TikTok is making a last-ditch bid to avert a ban in the US. It and parent company ByteDance filed an emergency request to the Supreme Court on Monday. They're asking for an injunction to halt the ban, which is set to kick in on January 19th. That's based on a law passed by Congress in April, which says a block can only be avoided if China-based ByteDance divests the short video app. The Justice Department has said that the company poses a risk to national security, given its access to vast troves of data on TikTok's 170 million US users. An appeals court has already rejected claims that the ban violates free speech protections. In their Supreme Court filing, the pair argue that Americans should be allowed to choose to view TikTok, free from what they call government censorship. On Monday, they were given a possible glimmer of hope by Donald Trump in his first news conference as president-elect.
You know, I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok had something to do with that. Now, Joe Rogan did, and some of the other people that were recommended by my son Barron, he knew names. I said, who is that? Tell me, who's that? Dad, you gotta be kidding. I can't believe you don't know. And I did those interviews, and it was actually sort of cute. Do you want to know the truth? But we did them, and that had an impact. But TikTok had an impact, and so we're taking a look at it. But
during his first term, Trump had tried to ban TikTok, but the move was blocked in the courts. He has since reversed his position and said during this year's campaign that he would try to save the app. In the Supreme Court filing, ByteDance and TikTok argue that delaying the ban will allow justices to give a ruling and give the Trump administration time to make its own assessment.
European automakers are working hard to deal with a looming challenge. They face tougher emissions rules which could further hit profits across the struggling sector. They've reacted by raising prices of petrol cars and preparing discounts on electric vehicles. The European Union will dramatically lower its cap on automotive carbon dioxide emissions from January 1st. It means at least 1/5 of all sales by most car companies must be EVs to avoid heavy fines. But data has shown that so far this year, only 13% of all vehicles sold in the region have been electric. The tighter rules come as the sector is already dealing with excess capacity due to underwhelming sales and Chinese competition. It's led to profit warnings from majors like Volkswagen, Stellantis and others in recent months. One analyst has said the companies will need to sell more EVs at a time when consumption is being put off by political and economic uncertainties and falling EV subsidies. EVs also cost more to make than traditional vehicles. With just weeks to go, Europe's politicians have urged Brussels to rethink the targets. But European Automobile Manufacturers Association Chairman Luca De Meo says car makers are getting to work and eager to avoid fines that could reach $15.76 billion. VW, Stellantis and Renault have raised the prices of petrol engine models by several €100 in the last 2 months. Analysts see this as an attempt to curb demand for heavier emitters and make pricier electric models appealing. but a source close to one European automaker warned the strategy could backfire. They said raising petrol car prices should help close the gap with more expensive EVs, but may not generate enough EV sales due to weak market growth. Sales in the region are around a fifth lower than pre-COVID.
The Nasdaq notched a record closing high Monday amid an otherwise mixed day for stocks as investors anticipated another rate cut from the Federal Reserve. The Dow dropped a 0.25 percentage point, while the S&P 500 rose nearly 0.4%, and the Nasdaq climbed about 1.25%. President-elect Donald Trump met with SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son on Monday. The two announced that SoftBank would invest $100 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years, which Trump said would create 100,000 jobs focused on artificial intelligence. Most mega-cap and growth stocks gained ground, with Google parent Alphabet rising more than 3.5% and Tesla up more than 6%. And shares of chip supplier Broadcom, which crossed $1 trillion in market value last week, soared another 11% on Monday. Rob Hayworth is Senior Investment Strategy Director at U.S. Bank Asset Management.
I think what we're seeing is the market is still following through with artificial intelligence plays and looking to drive that. Additionally, higher interest rates are causing some concern that there may not be as much follow through for some of the more income-oriented and value-oriented sectors in the market. And so I think that's why we're seeing a little bit of rotation here to start the week ahead of Wednesday's Fed meeting.
Markets have almost completely priced in a 0.25 point rate cut at the conclusion of the Fed's two-day policy meeting on Wednesday, according to CME's FedWatch tool. Ahead of the Fed decision, retail sales data will be eyed on Tuesday for signs of continued strength in the consumer.
Alibaba is selling its in-time department store chain and booking a $1.3 billion loss to do so. The Chinese giant bought the company for twice that amount back in 2017. At the time, it wanted to expand into bricks and mortar retail. Now Alibaba is taking a hit as it speeds up a restructuring process, aiming to focus on its core e-commerce business. Last month it said it would integrate its Chinese and international platforms into one operation. That follows a move the previous year to split into 6 units and reshuffle top management. It's the company's biggest ever revamp and comes amid intense competition from rivals like Temu and TikTok. They've been targeting cost-conscious consumers with rock-bottom prices on everything from headphones to sweaters. Weak Chinese consumer spending has also put stores of all kinds under pressure. Alibaba is selling in time to a consortium comprising China-based clothing maker Youngor Fashion and members of the department store's management. It may also look to sell other consumer sector assets, including grocery business Freshippo. In April, Alibaba co-founder Jack Ma expressed support for the restructuring efforts in a lengthy memo to employees and also acknowledged past mistakes.
Shares of MicroStrategy jumped more than 6% on Monday as the software company and Bitcoin buyer was set to join the Nasdaq 100. Its inclusion gives the roughly $26 trillion index indirect exposure to Bitcoin. The addition comes as Bitcoin crossed $107,000 on Monday to hit another record high, now up more than 150% for the year. The prospect of more buying from funds that track the Nasdaq 100 could further boost MicroStrategy's stock, which has surged nearly 550% this year alongside a jump in Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, a money-losing software company, adopted Bitcoin as its treasury asset in 2020 under the leadership of co-founder Michael Saylor. In the 4 years since, the company's shares have skyrocketed 3,200%. MicroStrategy's market value is now over $100 billion, more than twice the value of its Bitcoin stockpile.